Americans. Today we're going to discuss how you can live abroad, keep 100% of your income, and become wealthy nomads. And best of all, the strategy I'm about to share with you in this video is applicable to average Americans. So that's 90% of you guys watching this video. This is for middle-class Americans, not the rich. And I'm going to walk you through a 5-year plan that anybody can follow to bank $500,000. And the $500,000 is after-tax money. First of all, I'm going to walk you through the numbers, the kind of business you need, how much profit you need, how much revenue you need. Then I'm going to walk you through where you must live in order to achieve tax-free income. And thirdly, I'm going to walk you through some residence permits. All right, let's get started talking about the numbers, okay? Because the magic is in the numbers. You've probably heard this saying before, and it's very true. What I'm about to share with you, it's real important that you have some kind of online income. You need to have some kind of online business to make this work. So you can't have a job in America. You can't have a business in America. The business needs to be online. The goal is to bank $100,000 a year. How do we do that? There are a couple of things involved here, okay? First of all, I'm going to give you an example here. And let's say we have a business that generates $160,000 in gross volume a year, okay? And this is actually quite typical. There are a lot of online businesses that make $160,000 a year. But remember, that's before expenses, not after expenses. So let's say your expenses are a third of that. Let's say your expenses are 30% of your gross volume, of your gross revenue. Fantastic, okay? So your gross revenue is $160,000 and 30% of that money is just lost, okay? You have expenses, you have overhead, you have tools, software, you need websites, you have all kinds of other expenses that come with running a business. So you are pretty much losing 30% of your money, in all these different expenses. They're taking money away from your business. So even if you make $160,000 in gross sales, you end up with probably $112,000 net. Okay, so $112,000 net. Great. This is actually not a bad net profit to have in your hands, especially if it's tax-free, and we're going to get to the tax system you need to have this kind of money tax-free in your bank account. We're going to get to this after step 1. Now we're in step 1. But $112,000 is actually a good amount of profit, especially if you're living in a low-cost country, which is also part of our plan. And I'm going to make a very conservative assumption right here. Okay, you make $112,000 net, so that's after-tax money because you live in a country where you don't have to pay taxes on your overseas income because it's a territorial tax country. So you have $112,000 to play with. Not bad at all. And since you're living in a low-cost country and you're very conservative yourself, you're a conservative spender, and you don't want to spend more than $1,000 a month on your living expenses. This is actually a very conservative plan. It's a sound plan. It makes sense. And doing this for 5 years, will lead to you having more money in the bank than most people can imagine. If you were to spend just $1,000 of your after-tax money on your living costs, which is something that you can achieve in certain countries, then that would be fantastic. $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. You can find an apartment for a couple $100 a month, let's say $400 a month, and that leaves you with another $600 for utilities, right? Transportation, food, insurance, the absolute necessities for your life, for your day-to-day activities, because you're not in the process of building a business, my friend. And if you're in the process of building a business, your number one priority is to focus as much attention, as much of your energy as possible on building a business, and you want to delay gratification as much as possible. So if you can do that for 5 years, then you can make money, and most importantly, you can bank a lot of money. So you want to be doing that. $1,000 a month is nothing. If you are in America, $1,000 a month isn't even enough to pay for your rent. It's probably enough for food and potentially transportation, and maybe not even that, okay? But in certain countries, especially if you don't need a car, or if, you just can cut down because you are potentially living with other people, or you can use Ubers, you can actually get by with just $1,000 a month. It's not going to be a lavish lifestyle, so I don't claim that, but it's possible. Okay, it's a conservative plan. And a 70% profit margin is actually very reasonable for an online business. It's quite normal to be anywhere from 60 to 70%. And the higher the volume gets, okay, the more volume you generate, the more sales you have, the more costs you have. You need more staff, right? You have just more expenses. You need managers, you need customer support, you need sales sales reps, you need all kinds of people working for your company to make it work, to get to that kind of volume. And because of that, your net profit goes down. You have more expenses, your net profit decreases. When you first start your business, it's more profitable. Why? You're doing most of the things yourself because you can't even afford to outsource them. You can't even afford to hire people. But after time, once you have more money, it's like, hey, I need to hire people to keep growing my income, to keep growing my revenue, right? My customer base and all of that. So, but when you start out, that's usually not the case. So with $100,000 saved in the bank every year in 5 years, you would have $500,000 in savings. And this is after tax money, my friend. And when you apply the system we're going to talk about in step 2 and step 3, you will be able to keep all of it, if you do it right. Let me give you another plan, okay? Let's say you make a bit more. Let's say you make $190,000 in volume every year. And again, this is something that an average person can do. Yes, there are many people who make $500,000 plus in net profit every year, but to make $190,000 in volume is doable, okay? It's not a super big business. It's a doable business. It's a business that many people have, and it takes work. So I'm not saying it doesn't take any work, certainly does, but it's doable. Let's say $190K a year in revenue, and you're making, say, 65% profit, which leaves you with $123,500, okay? So now you actually have a little bit more money to play with, but not that much more, because your expenses have gone up. Because your volume has gone up, your expenses have also gone up. Why? You need to outsource more, and because of that, your profit margins declined. It's very typical. And if you say get to $300,000 or $400,000, it's possible that your profit margin will only be 60%. Now you have $123,500 to play with, okay? And you have a decision to make now. Do I spend more on myself or do I save more? This is the question, okay? Let's say you're tired of just spending $1,000 on your living expenses. You want to do more. You want to go on road trips. You want to go on dates. You want to do more things. Maybe you want to buy a car, a used car, whatever your ambitions are in the emerging country you are moving to or you're living in. Now we assume that you're living in an emerging country. Wherever you're living, you want to just get more out of life. So with $24,000, you have a little bit more breathing room. Maybe you want to buy a car that year, okay? You want to spend $10,000 on a car, maybe $7,000. Great. You want to buy a car, be careful because your living costs go up, okay? You have more expenses. So ask yourself if you really want that. Or like I said, you could just save another $10,000 a year. It's better to have it saved or invested than spend on yourself. That's something you have to decide for yourself. What do I want? What's more important to me at the time? Okay, now we assumed businesses that generated anywhere from $160,000 to $190,000 a year, and we considered 70% profit margin and a 65% profit margin. What happens if you have a smaller business? All right, let me give you another example. Let's say you're pulling in $60,000 a year and you're looking at an 85% profit margin. Why? You're doing more on your own. You don't really have much expenses, right? You don't outsource as much. You have very little overhead, if any, so you're doing more things on your own, and you also don't need as much software. You don't need as much like customer support. You're not putting a lot of money into sales reps and stuff because you're doing all of it yourself. So with 60,000 in, say, volume and an 85% profit margin, you're looking at $51,000 in net profit. And if we go back to the same example where you pay yourself a $12,000 salary, which would be sufficient to live in certain developing countries, then you would be left with $39,000 in savings every year. Now with this kind of plan, okay, it would take you 5 years to bank $195,000 if you were to live abroad and also take advantage of the other steps we're about to discuss. Let's talk about what you must follow to qualify for this wealth creation process. The first thing that you need, if you're an American abroad, you need to get the foreign income exclusion. Now this is super important, and this really only applies if you live abroad for most throughout the year, okay? You cannot live in America and qualify for the foreign income exclusion. It's exclusively for Americans who live abroad, who are no longer residents in America. And this is great because there are a couple of things that you will like about this concept, especially if you live abroad. If you live abroad and you can prove it and you want to qualify for the foreign income exclusion, there are a couple of things that you really need to know. First of all, there is a limit in the cap, okay? So it's not going to be everything. If you make, say, $500,000 a year net profit, the IRS will not let you consume all of it like tax-free overseas. It doesn't work like that. And this is now for the past year, actually, 2023, it was $120,000, okay? If you had an income, say a salary or a profit, whatever, of $120,000, then that money you could consume tax-free overseas if you're not a resident of the United States. Even if you're a citizen abroad, you may qualify for the foreign income exclusion. If you're married to an American, then it would be double. It would be $240,000 per year. This is what it was last year. This year it actually has gone up. Why? The amount is inflation adjusted. It adjusts every year depending on how much inflation there is. For this year, the foreign income exclusion for single filers will be $126,500 and $253,000 for married Americans. So you see, if you have like a business and you're paying yourself a salary and you're also paying your wife a salary, then you may qualify for more, income exclusion. You may not have to pay taxes on a lot more money. If both of you have an income and you're living outside of the United States, then this may be a good way for you to save even more money. The next thing that you need is to live in a territorial tax country. And this is really everything, You either live in a territorial tax country or in a tax haven, because when you do that, you may qualify for 0% foreign income tax. And not all countries offer this concept. Okay, very few countries offer it. Some countries do, and the countries that offer this system, they usually, attract a lot of people who want to save money on taxes. The topic of territorial tax system is usually a bit of a tricky one because not all foreign income applies to a territorial tax system. It really depends. So you need to read the fine print, but many sources of income, many foreign sources of income apply to many countries' territorial tax system. Paraguay and Panama are two countries with territorial tax systems where Americans abroad can qualify for a 0% income tax on foreign sourced income. To qualify for the territorial tax system in both countries, you do need to spend a minimum amount of days each year in these countries. That's really important. Given the plan that we outlined, we talked about the 5-year plan where you generated, $112,000 in net profit, you paid yourself a $12,000 salary, you banked the rest. Okay, it would take you 5 years to get to $500,000 in the bank. Plus, if you do that even longer, you can make even more money. And we can obviously adjust these numbers depending on your lifestyle, depending on your ambitions, depending on what you want. And the next thing that you need is, of course, residence permits. Okay, so we're going to talk about this here very briefly. In Paraguay, you can get a residence permit. It starts with temporary residency, which you can get without proving economic solvency. And like I said, Paraguay is a country that offers a territorial tax system where, most foreign sourced income is not taxed, but, certain exceptions apply, and you really must comply to all local laws to qualify for Paraguay's territorial tax system. To get residency in Paraguay, you need a clean criminal record certificate. That's very important. You need your birth certificate and a few more documents. And we at Nomad Elite, we help our clients get a residency in Paraguay. So if you're interested in implementing this 5-year plan where you can save, a lot of money, not pay income tax on foreign sourced income, assuming that you qualify for the foreign income exclusion in America and the territorial tax system in Paraguay, then you're welcome to start working with us, and we would love to consult you on this topic as well. So Paraguay is an option. It's a landlocked country in South America. It borders Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina. It is a country full of hospitable people. What's great about Paraguay is that it's actually a quite boring country. So if you want to create wealth, if you want to become wealthy living abroad, then Paraguay is probably a great place. Why? Low living costs. It's kind of isolated from the rest of the world except for South America, and there's just not much to do there, right? The food's good, the people are nice, the internet is actually quite good in Asuncion, so it has a lot of good benefits, it has a lot of pros. But on the other side, there's some cons too, that you can't really enjoy a lot of your money. You can't really have that luxurious lifestyle that you have in Miami, just to be clear, or that you have like in LA or in New York, or, for instance, in Austin. There are many nice bars and restaurants in Asuncion, but it's not the best of places to spend money, but it fits our wealth creation plan perfectly. Panama is another country that we recommend where you can get a residence permit. It's actually quite similar to Paraguay. To get residency in Panama, you actually have to incorporate a company, sponsor yourself, and then you can qualify for a residence permit. There are obviously more ways for you to do it as well. You can get like a student visa, you can invest in the country if you want to get a residence permit. You can marry a Panamanian citizen. There are quite a few more ways for you to qualify for residency in Panama. However, the entry requirements are a little bit harder than they are in Paraguay. Why? So many people have moved to Panama in recent years that Panama had to decide, we make it harder now than before. However, with Panama, with Panamanian residency, you can also qualify for 0% tax on foreign sourced income, which, you know, would be in alignment with the whole strategy that we talked about, and you would still qualify potentially for the foreign income exclusion in America, where you can consume a certain amount of income tax-free while living abroad and not spending time in America. There are a few more pros that come with this approach, with this system. So you're gonna improve your lifestyle by living in a lower cost country. Why? Your purchasing power increases because the cost of goods and services, you know, it's just lower than it is in America. Plus, you know, you don't pay income tax on, you know, the income that you generate, assuming that you comply with all the guidelines the country has laid out, and you also qualify for the foreign income exclusion in America. So there are some contingencies, but you can do it. If you want to qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion in America and get residency in either Paraguay and Panama and have us help you with this whole plan, with this whole concept that we laid out, we would love to work with you. Please contact us now. You should see our website displayed right below the video. Please book a consultation with us. We'd love to help you get started with this process and help you save money, become a wealthy expat, and have a great time living abroad. Thank you so much for watching Nomad Elite. We appreciate you, and we see you on the next video.